FM News Talk 97.1. On-demand audio.
And I'm very excited to thank this veteran as well. Commander Kirk Lippold. He is the former commander of the USS Cole and an American hero. And, sir, first of all, thank you for your service and thank you for your time today as well.
Absolutely, Dana. It's great to be on the show again, and thank you to you and your listeners for all the support you give those young men and women that are out there defending freedom.
Well, and they deserve it. They really do. And you joined us last year, and I know we talked, I think you joined us last year on the anniversary of the USS Cole attack, and we discussed that at length. And defense is, I'm glad that we seem to be focusing more on defense and foreign policy right now, but the circumstances surrounding all of this obviously are quite unfortunate. I wanted to ask your opinion on the Benghazi situation and how everything has unfolded with everything that happened with our consulate over in Libya. We were learning more about the timeline. Now we have all of this other drama that's associated with General Petraeus and so on and so forth. In your expertise and from everything that you have dealt with in your lifetime, in your career, what do you make of this?
Well, first, I want to make it clear that my thoughts and prayers are with the families who tragically lost loved ones, including the ambassador and the others that were killed in that tragic attack. But when you look at what happened in Benghazi, the American people have an absolute right to know who knew what, when they knew it, and why, now that we have got that there were 3 confirmed requests for assistance that were denied, and General Petraeus was very clear that no one at the CIA denied those requests for help. Where in the chain of command, clearly leading toward the White House, were those denials made, for what reasons, and at the bottom of the end of the day, we as Americans have a right to know, what did this president know, when did he know it, and stop dancing around the point. The politics are over, now it's time to get to the truth, and this president owes us answers.
Does everything that's happening with General Petraeus, and I want to get your reaction to his resignation too, but should that to me doesn't seem any reason to excuse him from testifying this week?
I think that he should be allowed to testify. I think Congress should cut him a little slack in the fact that this really did come to light within his family, evidently only in the last couple of weeks, if not the last few days. I think they need some privacy to do that. Nothing of the facts are going to change, so let the general have some time after resigning from the CIA, which I believe was the absolute right course of action for him to do. You never want to have an individual working in the intelligence community whose background and could be questioned or his integrity possibly impugned with respect to his service to the nation. So I think he did the right thing, but at some point in time, I think that the general is going to come, and he's going to want to testify before Congress because he wants to make sure that his name's cleared, and he wants to make sure that he is telling the truth for what he knew and what the people within the agency knew at the time. And I'm sure that right now those that are working at the CIA that are planning for testifying are going to make darn sure that they are going to be very truthful about it because some of their people died, and they cannot afford to be sending their agents into harm's way, and those agents in the back of their mind wondering, boy, will I be backed up back at Langley in Washington, or am I going to be out there all by myself and they're going to be cut ties and I'm going to be left adrift doing the nation's work and trying to defend freedom?
Exactly. And I do give him credit for holding himself accountable for his actions.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, it's so refreshing to see that he still holds to that high standard of personal and professional accountability, because I guarantee you the politicians we have today clearly don't even think about that, don't do it, and instead try to justify why they should remain in office instead of doing like the general did.
And this raises another question as well, because this is something that you would think would have been caught by the FBI, because apparently all of this started as he was transitioning into the CIA, into his position at the CIA. Isn't this something that perhaps they could have realized sooner, or what do you make of all of the theories that are going around that people did know about this, but they didn't say anything until now? Is that just at this point just needless, or what do you make of those rumors?
Well, I think they are just that. They're rumors. At this point, every indication we have is this affair did not really come to fruition until the general had retired out of the Army, that he had begun the work at the CIA. And as the FBI investigation and the little what I'm hearing from my sources now is that there was nothing the FBI found that would indicate that there was either a security breach, which would be first and foremost, or a breaking of any of the nation's laws. While inappropriate behavior, and the general held himself to a high standard when it came to that information coming out, the reality is the FBI could not pursue anything legally. Clearly, General Clapper, as head of the Director of National Intelligence, and speaking with General Petraeus, said, look, this just is not going to work well. What I am uncomfortable with is the fact that the FBI knew the involvement of the general with this woman, Broadwell, and the fact that there was an affair going on and held that information back until the last possible moment so as not to affect the election by letting the American people know this was going on. That is playing politics with our national security. It was inappropriate, and the FBI, while claiming that they needed to finish the investigation first, let's face it, they had months that they could have put the necessary resources to wrap this up before the election. They did not do that. They played politics, and I think that in the long run, that makes the integrity of the FBI and those running this case, it makes us question whether they were really looking out for the best interests of the nation.
Absolutely. And now we see the focus, especially in the media, more so on this Petraeus affair than what actually happened in Benghazi, and the fact that we have Americans killed. And there was the attack on the annex as well. There seems to be it seems as though they're gleeful that they have something to distract them. Does that anger you as well?
Well, I'm disappointed. I mean, there's one point that I want to touch back on real quick. You know, when I kind of hold the FBI to account for this particular case, you have to remember I will always be incredibly grateful for the FBI for everything they did for the crew and me on board USS Cole. I mean, you can read it in my book, Front Burner, but when you look at this particular case and this one investigation, I'm just very disappointed in them.
Yes. Well, there's this whole story. I'm hoping that we get some answers this week, and I'm hoping that we see the administration, or that we see at least these agencies, stop playing politics with this and stop covering this up. Going a little bit further into this, and I've talked to a lot of people, and everyone has differing opinions. There are all of these stories that are saying, well, perhaps maybe why the consulate being attacked in Benghazi was such a big deal. We heard that they were holding prisoners. Then there are all of these discussions about possible, arms trading to Syrian rebels. How much stock do you put into something like this? I mean, this is something that you've had to deal with before, I'm sure, and you have to weigh what you can consider legitimate and what is illegitimate. How do you approach all of these stories that are surrounding this scandal, and when do you put stock in any of them? What is your take?
I put stock in them right now because, as we've clearly seen with this story as it has grown and developed, that the administration has already been caught in a manipulation of the truth. Whether it turns out to be blatant lies in covering for the president in the run-up to an election, I think we're going to have to dig into that, and Congress, as our representatives, has a right in an oversight role to find out what happened. I'm sure there are going to be certain aspects as we dig into Benghazi that are going to be of a very sensitive and highly classified nature. We as Americans trust our representatives to look into that on our behalf and be truthful in how they deal with it. I expect them to do that. We did not investigate Watergate and get to the bottom in one hearing. This could go on and potentially will go on if months, because it is going to take time to put together the pieces to make sure that we are asking all the right questions at the right time of the right people, and let this thing continue to develop and build. And at some point, if we're not getting answers, then it's time to appoint a special investigative committee or a special prosecutor if we think laws have been broken, and let's start getting to the bottom of it. Yes, that can be expensive for the American people in times of economic hardship, but we as Americans have a right to believe that our government is going to be truthful and just in what they do and not play politics with people's lives.
Absolutely. Commander Kirk Lippold, we so thank you for your service, and thank you for standing up for America, everything that you did with while in service. Your book, Al-Qaeda's Attack on the USS Cole, Front Burner, you can get that at kirklippold.com. Sir, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, and again, thank you for your service.